This news program is proudly brought to you by Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits and Now Biscuits.
Parliament approves reciprocal visa exemption for PNG and Indonesia. Lawlessness has dramatically increased in the northern province. Namatanai and KVN DDAs urged to assist New Island provincial government. A very good evening. This is National Emtv News. I'm Godwin Eki. Thank you for joining us. On Thursday, the Parliament approved the agreement between Papua New Guinea and Indonesia on reciprocal visa exemption for holders of diplomatic and service passports. The agreement will see both Indonesia and Papua New Guinea's diplomatic and service officers be issued visa on arrival.
On 24th of March 2023, the National Executive Council, in its decision, has approved for PNG to sign the visa reciprocal exemption agreement with Indonesia. The treaty was presented in Parliament on Thursday by the Prime Minister for ratification, where Parliament agreed to the treaty. Prime Minister James Marape said this agreement will enable diplomatic officers for both states to be issued visa on arrival.
You need not send your staff to stand in the queue or go online to apply for visa to go to Indonesia here on if you are a holder of an official passport. You just have to travel there and you will be issued with a visa on arrival. And if you're traveling with one of the two passports, mentioned.
PM Marape said this visa agreement is for the state and government officials only. He said this will pave way for business and tourist visa exemptions.
This visa waiver agreement for diplomatic and official passport holders is for the state and government officials only, in recognition of closer and progressive travel projections between our two countries. The Republic of Indonesia's business and tourism potentials are immense, and upon building our confidence and reliability into the future, potentials to offer visa on arrival for business and genuine tourists can be explored going forward.
The visa also has time duration for both parties to enter and exit.
This waiver agreement will allow diplomatic and official passport holders from the two countries, Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, to travel to each other's countries and obtain visa on arrival and be in that country for a certain period of time.
Cynthia Maku, National Emtv News.
Meanwhile, the Parliament has also approved the treaty agreement between China and Papua New Guinea on mutual visa exemption for holders of diplomatic service passports for public affairs. This visa will serve the same purpose as Indonesia's visa exemption, where diplomats and service officers will receive visa on arrival.
Seamless movement.
Prime Minister James Marape stated that this visa agreement is similar with the Indonesia-PNG visa exemption, where diplomatic and service officers from both countries will be issued visa on arrival. He said this visa is for state officers only, and business and tourism visas will be made available once this visa exemption for diplomats is successfully rolled out. PM Marape stated that this will be the first bilateral visa agreement PNG has with other countries.
Visa waiver agreement with any country or China, this will be the first time we have with China. This agreement will promote seamless movement, travel between our officials and the officials, as I alluded to earlier. And so, Mr. Speaker.
On that note, the governor for New Island Province, Sir Julius Chan, asked the Prime Minister to clarify if Taiwan is part of the visa agreement.
Will Taiwan be included in this agreement? Because there is only a one China policy, and Papua New Guinea has given an undertaking for that policy. So can he confirm that Taiwan will be automatically included in this policy? Thank you.
In response, PM Marape said Taiwan is part of the One China policy and will be included in the arrangements.
Taiwan, as we speak, is part of the One China policy embrace. This reciprocal visa arrangements, in my view, also entails our travel into Taipei, into Taiwan. In respect to our government stand, we continue to embrace the One China policy and recognize that Taiwan remains within the sovereign territory of the People's Republic of China.
Cynthia Maku, National Emtv News.
Vice Minister for Mining and Border Issues and Not Fly Open MP James Donald announced the Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the Runginai Health Centre solar power project, which commenced this week after the arrival of the 40-feet container loaded with all required solar sets and accessories needed for the generation of electricity through solar power. The minister clarified that Phase 3 is for all the 40 staff houses of Runginai Health Centre and Phase 4 is for Runginai Station street lighting project, with Phase 1 including hospital buildings, while Phase 2 was the CHW and RSO and Training Centre buildings and dormitories. He affirmed that work is at the infant stage in partnership with key stakeholders to establish a mega solar farm to power whole of Kyunga Town and Ningrum on a land size of 50 to 100 hectares for self-sustaining clean and sustainable power. Enga Provincial Police Commander Superintendent George Kakas has provided a detailed security brief for the airline operators, the national government and business houses before the resumption of air services into Wapanamanda Airport.
The Provincial Administrator, Mr. Sandy Saka, and the Provincial Police Commander, Superintendent George Kakas, had made a joint decision based on the assessment of the current situation to have the airport closed for a few more days. Superintendent Kakas clarified that, although fighting has already stopped, the situation is currently unpredictable given that hundreds of tribesmen took part in the conflict. He added that the security forces gained control of the main Highlands Highway and boundaries between the warring factions, protecting the general public and key government installations and institutions in the affected Middle Lai area of the Wapenamanda district. PPC Kakas is calling on the two airline operators and the government to give 1 or 2 more days for thorough security clearance before the security forces give an all-clear approval for flights to resume air services into Wapenamanda Airport. Natasha Ovoy, National Emtv News.
A total of 50 Papua New Guineans have been named in the King's Birthday Honours. The 2023 King's Birthday Honours for Papua New Guinea were announced today as per a media release from the Office of the Governor-General, Grand Chief Sir Bob Dadai. The King's Birthday Honours mark the extraordinary contributions and service of people across PNG.
The birthday honours are appointments by some of the 15 Commonwealth realms of King Charles III to various orders and honours to reward and highlight good works by citizens of those countries. The birthday honours are awarded as part of the King's birthday this month. 50 Papua New Guineans have been named, among them Chris Haiveta for services to politics and public services, Karen Gakua, the Minister for Petroleum and Energy and MP for Sinasina Yongamugu for services to legal fraternity, Work Secretary David Wera for public service in road construction and rehabilitation, former BSP CEO Robin Fleming for services to community and the banking system. The former Governor of Madain, Peter Yama, has also been recommended for an award in the King's Birthday Imperial Honours and Awards. Once approval is given, the appropriate awards and titles will be awarded to Mr. Yama accordingly. Other prominent Papua New Guineans include Dr. Uke Kombra, Wapu Song and Augustine Mano. The full listing can be seen on the MTV online pages. Rocky Hiso, National MTV News.
National MTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. You're watching National MTV News. Lawlessness has drastically increased in the northern province over the months, with recent clashes erupting in and around the vicinity of the provincial capital, Popondetta. This was confirmed by the provincial police commander, A.Y. Segi, this afternoon.
Crimes and arson causing deaths have been rampant in the northern province recently. Over the last 72 hours, the vicinity surrounding the town area was on high alert as fights erupted. Local police officers on the ground have been struggling to contain the lawlessness. The provincial police commander, A.Y. Segi, has confirmed with this newsroom this afternoon that upon his request to the police hierarchy, Mobile Squad 20 will be deployed to the province tomorrow to boost manpower and to help curb law and order in Popondetta. It is understood the consumption of local homebrew, known as Eveka, is a major contributing factor to lawlessness in the province. It is high time provincial and community leaders stand together with security forces and help curb these law and order problems caused mainly by youths in the province. Lindy Suharupa, National Emtv News.
Chairlady assisting New Island Governor Sir Julius Chen has called on Namatanai and Kavieng District Development Authorities, respectively, to assist the provincial government in terms of infrastructural developments in the New Island province.
Chairlady Miss Bill Nelson made this call during the Provincial Assembly meet at the New Island Legislative Assembly House in Kavieng last week during its June sitting. Kavieng Town Mayor Greg Toxey raised concerns of funding constraints and inaccessibility to funding earmarked for the respective local level governments in the province. He then requested funding from the provincial government to upkeep and maintain the cleanliness of Kavieng Town. In response, Chairlady Miss Bill Nelson clarified that since the NEC decision in February of 2021 to move the Lihir royalty government funds directly to the District Development Authority, the provincial government is now left with only 20%, which is 19.3 million kina, with the two electorates receiving 40%, that is 38.6 million kina, each from the 96.6 million kina total royalties funding. She further clarified on the Namatanai and Kavieng DDAs to support local level government presidents in delivering services to the people. The New Island province comprises of two districts, Kavieng and Namatanai, with a total of 9 LLGs. Lindy Suharupa, National Emtv News.
Papua New Guinea's commercial interest is not being compromised by the Defence Cooperation Agreement, and it will not affect trade and investment of PNG as far as the Minister for International Trade and Investment, Richard Maru, is concerned. Minister Maru said this is his statement in the Parliament during the debating of DCA between Papua New Guinea and the United States.
The first consultation was held in Kokopo.
Speaking in Parliament, the Younguru Sasia MP and Minister for International Trade and Relations, Richard Maru, said there is no need to talk about unnecessary fear about the Defence Cooperation Agreement stopping PNG from trading with other countries like China, because the biggest trading partners of China are two of America's strongest allies, Australia and New Zealand. Minister Maru also clarified that what was signed was only a framework agreement and there were no details in terms of the cooperation. Minister Maru also stated in his recent meeting with the U.S. trade team during the APEC Trade Ministers meeting at Detroit in the U.S. that apart from the DCA, the two countries should also enter into a bilateral trade and investment framework agreement to further PNG-U.S. bilateral trade and investment relations. Minister Maru commended the Prime Minister James Marape, the Defence Minister Windaki and the team behind the DCA, and according to Maru, we have started on the right path and we must now work together and put together details and see how we can benefit from this agreement, like how other countries like Fiji have benefited from such an agreement. Rocky Iso, National Emtv News.
The popular Lagai Sangai Festival is all set to eventuate this year as scheduled for July 28, 2023 at the Wanepa Primary School field in the newly created Lagai district of Enga province. Festival Director Tony Sulupin assured the people of Enga and relevant government authorities that this festival will be much bigger with more local participation. Sulupin called on those interested groups to register themselves according as spaces are limited. The Lagai Sangai Festival is an annual event which began in 2019 and has been up and running, promoting the unique cultures, traditions and customs of the Lagai district and Enga province as a whole. This festival is sanctioned and recognized by the National Cultural Commission and has been assisting in the marketing of tourism in Enga province since its inception. Locals from the surrounding communities employed as plant operators at the Ramoniko Management Kurumbukari mine has undergone internal process plant training recently through the company's cooperation obligations for communities around the corridor of the Ramoniko and Copal project to provide employment opportunities for locals has seen more locals employed and trained in different departments in the mine at Kurumbukari and Basamuk refineries since the mine began.
Last month, 60 operators who were employed locally from the surrounding communities to work in the mine's critical facilities, the benefiction plant and the wash plant, have undergone the process plant operator training to upskill their knowledge as well as getting certificates on various vital components of the plant they operate in. Trainer and facilitator for the process training, Mr. Edward Yagama, said most of the local operators needed to also know the different components of the machines they used every day, and the training was purposely for that. These local operators were introduced to the major equipment's components and their operating principles.
So the risk is there. It's very high risk getting illiterate people into joining certain areas. So what the company is doing, localizing getting locals to work is very good. There are things that you can't teach in the classroom.
Mr. Yagama, a mine process trainer by profession, said the first phase was theory and the second phase of the training was the practical component that involved troubleshooting and rundown of the different parts of the plant.
And when they are running the plant, then we make assessment. And then we specifically allocate certain operators to certain job tasks and because of the education level. You can put them in the person in an high-risk area. He still can get employed while in the process, but there are certain areas he can go on.
The trainer said that the operators are the custodian of the equipment they operate, and for them to know the equipment they use is vital. Ramoniko's KBK Mine Deputy Mine and Works Manager, Mr. Matthew Francis, said the mine has been providing employment opportunities to the impact communities for many years.
But as per the MOA also with regard to landowners and so forth, most trainings that done here, especially for the locals, but we also do in-house trainings for our nationals and some that require further trainings, like they go for PET certificate and so forth.
Mr. Francis added that with these internal trainings, it helps these local employees to be certified, and with the experience working the plants and vehicle operator experience, they can also be a useful resource for them to get promoted or more salary in Ramoniko Mining Limited to improve their families and living standards.
So we are trying to work closely with NATTB to do as a certified role that can be recognized by other institutions or mining that does processing and so forth.
Mr. Francis concluded and stated that jobs that require qualified personnel to take up other ones that the company recruits from the outside. Rocky Iso, National Emtv News.
National Emtv News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National Emtv News. Moving to overseas news now, thousands of spectators have paid tribute to King Charles as he took part in his first official birthday parade as the British sovereign.
Finally, it was a birthday parade for him.
Guards! Royal salute! Present! Arms!
King Charles took the salute in his own right as monarch. The king was on horseback, a rather friskier mount than he might have wished.
Shoulder! Arms!
Princes George and Louis and Princess Charlotte were taken to watch from a window overlooking Horse Guards as the parade got underway. On the dais, Queen Camilla, in an outfit modelled on the uniform of the Grenadier Guards, of which she's now honorary colonel, and the Princess of Wales in emerald green. She's colonel of the Irish Guards. For the first time in more than 30 years, all 5 of the Foot Guard regiments were on parade. The colour being trooped was that of the Welsh Guards. And then back up the Mall to Buckingham Palace, a carriage ride for the children, with George leading the waving. The King led the principal members of the family onto the palace balcony for the flypast, which couldn't take place on Coronation Day because of the weather. But in the clear skies of summer appeared the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight and some of the RAF's latest and loudest jets, including 18 Typhoon fighters spelling out the letters CR, Charles Rex, in tribute to Britain's new king.
2023 is shaping up to be the hottest year on record, with global temperatures already surpassing previous records.
The recent wildfires in Canada not only devastated hectares of bushland, but also contributed to a spike in air pollution across the border over New York and Washington. To take us through what we might be in for this year, Jackie Brown is the Research Director for the Climate Intelligence Program in the CSIRO's Climate Science Centre. She says climate change is set to intensify the effects of El Niño.
So when we have a La Niña, we know that climate change means the atmosphere holds more moisture. So there's more water out there for the rainfall to be more intense. Now, on the opposite side with El Niño, drier conditions, and we know that climate change means warmer weather, more evaporation, and less rainfall through the southern parts of Australia. So it's not that one makes necessarily the other worse. It exacerbates the underlying conditions. We think about bushfires every summer. That's just business as usual for us. What we've got, though, is a potential El Niño, which means drier, warmer conditions. That's sitting on top of 3 years of La Niña. So those 3 years of La Niña, more growth, so there's more fuel to burn, but things are also still wet. So it really depends how much they dry out over the year and whether we get those right conditions to ignite a bushfire. But definitely, if there is an El Niño, it will be slightly warmer. I don't think it's a matter of will there be bushfires. I think every year we think about the potential for bushfires in Australia. What we know this year is that it's not going to be a La Niña, so we're not expecting wet conditions.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in China for a 2-day visit and is expected to hold talks with Chinese Foreign Minister.
Mr. Blinken is expected to hold talks with the Chinese Foreign Minister, and there's speculation he will also meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. A trip planned for February was called off after an incident that saw US fighter jets shoot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon.
The Russian leader Vladimir Putin has welcomed an African delegation looking to negotiate a peace deal to end the war with Ukraine.
Mr. Putin told delegates that improving ties with African countries was a priority, but that elements of their peace plan were misguided. The African delegation met with Ukraine's president yesterday in Kyiv and were forced to take cover in a bomb shelter as Russian ballistic missiles hit the city. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says negotiating peace between the two countries is a global effort.
This war is causing a great deal of instability and harm to various countries around the world. And we as African countries are feeling the impact of this war.
European leaders are facing pressure to address migrant drowning after the latest shipwreck off the coast of Greece.
Nearly 80 people are confirmed to have died, but up to 500 people remain missing after the overloaded vessel capsized in one of the deepest parts of the Mediterranean Sea. Families have begun arriving at migrant camps and shelters to identify their loved ones.
As soon as he got into the boat, he said 50 people fit in here, and they were putting 750 people. It was certain it would take on water. I told him to get off. Don't go.
You're watching National MTV News. Trukai Sports is next. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. In the inaugural competition of the National Youth Soccer League today, the Hekari Academy stormed the South Sapporo FC 4 points to 1.
Leading Hekari Academy to a win was 19-year-old striker Roger Turbo, who acknowledged the success to his team and committed coaches. The Hekari Academy stand-in coach Peter Dabingaba had this to say about the winning team of the first playoff for round 1.
The win, it's a booster for us. Like we play plenty of boys, all new player players like in competition. They used to play their own small leagues and all stuff, but right now, we play with our match. The performance too, we plan to expect team them, but turned out right to me plan now yesterday. So yeah, we play just impressed right yesterday in our match result now.
Aside from Hekari Academy going up against South Sapporo FC, round 1 saw Port Moresby Strikers against Kempa FC and FC Genesis against PRK Central Amoana FC in Port Moresby, and the Northern Teens FC versus the Sipik FC, PS United FC versus Meding FC, and Ramu Sugar FC challenged the FC Golpu Stones in Leh. In the Port Moresby playoffs, Kempa FC downed Port Moresby Strikers 4-0 and FC Genesis lost with 1 point to PRK Central Amoana with 6 points. The second round is set to take place on the 25th of this month. Natasha Ovoy, Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
You're watching Trukai Sports. Back home to an update to Port Moresby Rugby League. The competition is into its 10th week of playoffs. Here are the highlights.
The Port Moresby Rugby League concludes its Week 10 of Round 1. In today's games for Under-20 Men's Division, HP Hawks beat Hohola Flies 4-0 and Paga Panthers beat Defence 7-0. In the women's competition, Paga Panthers beat Defence 12-0 and HP Hawks beat Hohola Flies 14-8. And in the A-grade competition, Kone Storms beat Magani 26-14. Paga Panthers beat Defence 18-14. The HB Hogs and the Hohola Flies are at 18-point draw. Natasha Ovoy, Trukai Sports.
And to sports overseas, Richmond has claimed its 6th win of the AFL season after beating St Kilda by 20 points in wet conditions.
what were wet conditions at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Richmond outscored the Saints 14 points to 1 in that final term to secure the win in what was Trent Cotchin's 300th AFL game. Cotchin celebrated with 2 goals and 29 disposals. Meantime, GWS humbled Fremantle by 70 points in Saturday's only other game. Jake Riccardi was in stunning form for the Giants, scoring 5 goals in the 106-36 victory.
Still in overseas sports, the Australian cricket team will resume the third day of the first Ashes test against England in a solid position.
In Birmingham, Australia is 5 for 311 in its first innings, trailing the home side by 82 runs. Was when Khawaja starred with his first century in England, an unbeaten 126, while Alex Carey is also not out on 52. England paceman Stuart Broad and spinner Moeen Ali took 2 wickets each.
I'm getting sprayed by the crowd as I'm walking out there today, and as I'm going to the nets, that I can't score runs in England, so I guess it was just bit more emotional than normal. I feel like I'm saying this all the time. Same thing happened in India. Not that I have a point to prove, but it's nice to go out and score runs for Australia, and yeah, just to show everyone that, you know, the last 10 years hasn't been a fluke.
In the Super Rugby Pacific competition, the Brumbies have lost by 19 points to 6 to the Chiefs in their semi-final match at Hamilton.
In a tight match, opportunities for both sides were extremely limited throughout the match before Brodie Retallick scored a late try to seal the win for the host. The Chiefs will now host 11-time champions, the Crusaders, in the competition final next Saturday.
That ends True Kai Sports. The weather report is next. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus. With you always.
Weather forecast for the next 24 hours. Southern region, Port Moresby partly cloudy and windy. Daru windy. Kerema and Alatau partly cloudy with few showers. Popondetta partly cloudy with few evening showers and possible thunderstorm. In the Momase region, Ley, occasional rain showers and possible thunderstorm with cloudy periods. Medang, Wewak and Vanimo cloudy with occasional showers and thunderstorm. In the New Guinea Islands region, all centers cloudy with frequent showers and possible thunderstorm. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen cloudy periods with evening rain showers and possible thunderstorm. Goroka and Kondiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, cloudy with showers and possible thunderstorm. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border to Daru through Gulf of Papua to Hood Point to Samarai Islands seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands seas 2 to 3 meters. Waters north of Cape Vogel to Ewan Gulf to Finschhafen seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitiers Dampier Straits to CSC and Long Islands seas 2 to 3.5 meters. Waters north of Long Island to Medang to Wewak to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of Manus and its western group of islands seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of New Ireland to East New Britain and Bougainville seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of West New Britain seas 2 to 3 meters. Ocean forecast, Coral Sea seas moderate to rather rough southeast winds of 20 to 30 knots. Solomon Sea seas moderate to rather rough southeast winds of 20 to 30 knots. Bismarck Sea seas light to moderate southeast winds of 15 to 20 knots, and Pacific Ocean sees smooth to slight southeast winds of 5 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that wraps up the news, sports and weather for Sunday, the 18th of June 2023. From all of us here, pleasant viewing. Bye for now.
This news program was proudly brought to you by Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits and Gold Nuggets.